A lovely evening to you and welcome to the first ever edition of Diaspora Community Affairs. Well, this program, of course, is brought to you by Noble People TV, who are also proud sponsors of the lovely edition of Noble People magazine. Well, now let's get into the program. What is Diaspora Community Affairs? Or firstly, I would like to ask, what is a community? A community, from my understanding, I'm sure, and your understanding, a community is a group of people with the same interest, or similar backgrounds. Now, who are the community? The community are people that show interest in your cultural backgrounds, or as I said earlier, from similar backgrounds. What should the community do? Community is there to enhance support in terms of not just problems, but in terms of interest. I'm here today at Noble People TV, Noble Radio. I'll be open. Let me just be open. I mean, Noble TV is owned by Mr. Adebayo, I call him, and I reside from Zambia. But then it's what you call the African community, okay? The African community. We've heard so much of the Asian community, the Jewish community. Now, what is it that these communities are doing that are making them more powerful, more empowered, as in compared to the African community? Let me just break it down. Okay, I'll start from the top. You've got Nigeria, you've got Ghana, okay? There are a lot of various pockets in the Nigerian community, which I'm very familiar with, in the Ghanaian community as well, which I'm very familiar with, in the East African community as well, which I'm very familiar with. But I'll look at one country. I won't pinpoint a particular country in case I'm held responsible in the court of law. So I'm just gonna give an example of country A. Okay, now this is country A. It's got probably 65, 70 tribes here in the UK. And in those tribes, you find that there is maybe 18 or 20 different communities, different associations, okay? So in total, you find that the African community, I'll remain positive that we are a very strong community. But I think where we lack is consolidating those small pockets. As I say, there are backgrounds of different tribes, different beliefs. But then what I've said, is that I've always pipped into communities like the Indian communities, the Asian communities, okay? I'm quite a frank talker. I got into the Asian community because I went out. I dated an Indian girl. And do you know how I dated an Indian girl? I met her in Halifax, the bank, and exchanged numbers with her, and she became my girlfriend. Don't you know the Halifax advert? They say Halifax, they give you extra. Yes, they did give me extra. They gave me a girlfriend. And so I pipped into that community. It's not a Pakistani community, it's an Indian community. And what I learned from them is they simply consolidate the small pockets into one, okay? And by that I mean they have different beliefs. There'll be a community for Christians, there'll be a community for entertainment, a community for media like Noble TV, but then they combine these into one, and this is what makes them, I think, powerful, popular. But then I'm going to touch on community support. What is community support? Community support is what you put into the community, what you and I put into the community. I'm going to be frank, black is beautiful. A lot of us, when we're on the high street, we're in Peckham, we're in Walthamstow, we're in Hackney, Forest Gate, Eastham, where there's black-oriented shops, African-oriented shop. Even when we want to get a can of Coke, even when we want to get chocolate, Snickers, you've got that in an African community shop. But why do we choose to go into another minority, another community shop? I'm not trying to be racist here, to say we should not go into Asian shops or white-oriented shops, but I'm trying to say that is part of community support, okay? Because what you find is certain ethnic minorities, okay, certain racial minorities, they hardly buy from anywhere apart from their community. I'm not saying we should not integrate. You know, people are marrying into each other. But it's just an example that I've given that why is it that even a can of Coke, Mr. Noble here, Mr. Ade has a shop in Peckham, right? And I just want a chocolate. I don't trust him. I don't want to put money in his shop because why should I give Ade my money? Let me go into Tesco. I think when we start as an African community to pump into ourselves, it's all about investing into ourselves. I'll give you another practical example that I mentioned earlier, right? Don't hold me at gunpoint and say, why did you say that? But I went out with an Indian girl, and when I was going out with this Indian girl, she was earning just like me, you know, earning £1,000 a month take home. And I was earning £1,000 take home, but she was driving a nice car. And she dressed up like she comes from a high class background, but she only lived in the ghetto, okay, what we call the ghettos here in the United Kingdom. So then what I found is her and her siblings get paid into one bank account, right? You hear that? They get paid into one bank account, right? So there's four of them, earning £1,000 take home, I assume, and they've got 4 grand at the end of the month. So they're able to get credit cards, okay? They're able to get cars on finance and etc. So I did the inquisitive and asked her, but how do you afford all this? Like, you're never broke, you drive a nice car. And she said, look, we've got one account, we get paid into one account as a family, and we designate somebody who looks after the account. If I want to go on holiday, I ask that person. We use that account because it gives us more credit. We're more credit worthy. We can get a mortgage. We can get a car on finance. We can also invest into various business ventures. So then I asked myself, right? I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to talk about you because I don't know you and your siblings. But me and my siblings, we start earning in one account. I think the first month there'll be, Chinode, John Chinode, where did you use that £80? Where do we go wrong? I want you to start typing now and drop us a message to tell us why do we go wrong, okay? Why is it that in the whole of Africa, okay, we've seen some parts of West Africa, some parts of North Africa, some parts of East and Southern Africa where there are consultants. But why do we fail to work as a community? Okay, working as a community will lead us into bigger consultants. So that's one part of community affairs. It's all about supporting each other and working together. Okay, I keep repeating myself that the moment we start getting up, right, the only thing we do in black shops or African shops is our hair, right? The women, when they buy their weave on, okay, that's the only time we spend into black shop. When is the last time I spent in a black shop? It was yesterday. Look at my lovely haircut here, right? Okay, told by my colleague here, Adi, that, you know, man, you need a haircut, you need a shave. I went into a black barber. That's as much as I can give back to the community. So the only way we shall improve ourselves in the community is by just a simple word, supporting one another. And who is the community? The community is me and you. The community is what you decide to do, right, in the best interest of the community. And the other aspect I'm going to talk about probably on my next program, because time is not always on our side, as if it's always been, is jealousy. Okay, it's jealousy. When I see African A or African B or African C doing well, right, my job as a community support is when I see an opportunity that favors him, I need to introduce him to that favor. But I'm going to say from observation, and I'm well researched, is we don't do that, okay? And that is what makes a community, okay? What makes a community is not sitting in the table drinking Guinness, drinking Guinness and talking about politics, corruption in Africa, and you say you're a community. No, we're not a community. Community is the moment we generate interest in all that we are doing. And I'm going to bring this to the women, that the pioneer of strengthening our communities are the women, because you can multitask, okay? You can put the community together. I think I'm going to salute you African women. You are doing your part. But I think we can do more as a community. I think we need certain things done for our next generation. So my points today that I'm trying to make to you is the importance of supporting and believing, right, that if an African man sets up a supermarket, right, that supermarket is as good as Tesco, it's as good as Sainsbury's, it's as good as Marks and Spencer. But what I find is we always find fault, okay? I'm going to give an example of just where I am right now. This is a fantastic, outstanding platform, Noble People, Noble TV. And then you are sat there in your leather seat at home. I don't know if you're in a room or a council flat or you've got your mortgage. I don't really care. But I'm going to tell you, you're fond of saying, but Noble TV, can't you sound a bit like BBC? Really? Is that what you're going to just say to me? Okay? You're just going to pick on the negative. What about saying somebody has put in the effort, right, for the African community, Friends of Africa, to use a platform to express their views, advertise their companies. The same big TV station you're talking about, the same big radio station you're talking about, research. They didn't start from the top. They started from the bottom. So what I'm emphasizing here is we always look for pointers. We always look for something negative, right? We see, we don't actually first recognize that this person has actually put in the effort. I've seen various people in the African community here in diaspora in the UK doing extra big things, doing fantastic things for the community. But the first thing that I'll hear is something negative, to say, yeah, that guy who does community affairs and the sports corner on Noble TV, yeah, he's good. But you see, the problem is when he talks, no, what about starting with the positive? Okay, what about, we always find that negative aspect, and that's what brings the community down. So the way forward is, let's start believing in ourselves. Let's believe that Africa is beauty. Africa is powerful. I'm not going to go back to the continent of Africa and talk about, that's for another day. I'm going to talk of community affairs here in the UK, African community affairs. I've spoken to a few Africans who've told me that we're not as supportive as we are back home. I thought it was the other way around. Some people say, well, the only time Africans can be supportive is when there's a wedding, a bereavement, or a party. But what about outside these areas, okay? Why can't we have community networking business ventures, all right? Yes, they do happen, but most of them don't get anywhere, because we come out with negativity. We come out with the person who initiated that networking idea. What is he trying to get out of us? Is he trying to make money over our head? Yes, there's nothing wrong. If an African is making money from Africans, or vice versa, if you're making money from me, right? I'm MC Chinode, right? If you want to use me for voice over artists, you want me to be a voice ad, or you want me to be a master of ceremony, I'm a broadcaster, I'm free to do that. If you're going to make money over me, make money. If you're going to pay me something, of course, I'm human, I'm happy with it. But then we allow other minorities to come and rule us and make something out of us, okay? I'm not going to become very political, because this is about empowering and addressing the issues that we face in our community. And this is why our children are getting affected in diaspora, okay? Go into the prisons, all right? You find the majority of kids there are of African origin. And why? Because they don't know who they are. We don't put them together, all right? I've seen stories, or heard stories, I beg your pardon, where an African youth is about to stab an African youth. And these two youths, right, their fathers are best friends, okay? What I mean their fathers are best friends is like me and the founder of this platform, Ade. We have children, but we don't create a platform for our children to meet. We always just meet in the pub or wine bar. Ade, corruption in Africa. Yeah, you know what? I want to invest in your country. Yeah, even you come and invest in Zambia, right? What about creating an event, okay, or something that is called empowerment for these kids to know each other, all right? How many African countries here are giving African languages as a lesson, okay? We are busy buying our MLs and X5s and rain sports and designer clothes, but if we all put in just 20 pounds, 50 pounds, we could have an African school, okay? An African Saturday school that teaches kids about African origin. This is why I mentioned earlier that most of the kids that are in prison, it's not their fault. I read about crime every day. I see about crime and I read these last names and you find they're from an African origin, okay? Why is it that kids from other minorities don't end up in this trouble? Are we always going to blame the fact that we were colonized, we were enslaved, or it's time to start moving on and empowering ourselves? Okay, we are the best. Black is beautiful. Africa is beautiful, especially here in the diaspora. There's a lot that we can do, but then we've got issues, okay? And these issues, I'll address them. This is why I thought of I think I'm also thankful that Noble recommended me to host this show because there are things where I come from in Zambia, maybe the person that I meet here is working for Barclays Bank, he's driving a Jaguar, and he lives in Hampstead, and this boy was probably my next door neighbor's garden boy or house servant or maid's son, right? Or in Nigeria, this person you're living in Abuja or in the posh side of Lagos, and you meet somebody who was below you, and you meet them here in the diaspora, and then there's that petty jealous that, who's that boy? What can that boy tell me? What can that boy tell me? I have to look after them, okay? We've got those kind of issues sometimes where we should blame ourselves. Why are we, I'm going to use the word poor, not as poor as in money, but why are we poor communitally, if there's such a word, okay? Why are we poor as a community, okay? Why is it that all our events, we go to community centers, which I don't mind. The community centers are there for a purpose, but we need to enhance and provide venues for ourselves. Right now, the Asian community is where we are renting from because we majority love our weddings, 50th birthday parties. The best venues right now in the UK are by not Africans. They're not owned by Africans. Why can Africans start owning these venues to rent them out to Africans? Are Africans going to appreciate that, accept that? Because the furthest we go is community centers, or somebody's going to open up a little wine bar or club, or that's how far we go. No, we want us to own these posh events that I see around the UK. I want you watching out there to know that you can own that posh venue, whether it's in central London, it's in Knightsbridge, I don't care which part of London, because we are not putting money in ourselves. When we rent those venues outside, whichever minority we give it to, I'm not trying to segregate here, right? I'm not trying to segregate. I'm trying to be very as impartial as I can be. But then we are not putting that money back into ourselves, okay? I'm sure you've heard this so many times. Look around the shops, right? How many of us sell okra? How many of us sell, our own pounded yam? Yes, there are shops there, but we're not the majority, okay? Somebody said to me one time that look around London and you find that there is over 2,000, 1,000 churches that are started every year by Africans. But why can that 1,000 be 1,000 businesses? Okay, so that is what Community Affairs is all about. I hope you enjoyed the program this evening. It's a Friday evening, lovely sunshine here in the UK. We shall be back, of course, during the course of the week, hopefully next Friday. This was a program to see if it is something that would generate interest to you. So if you've loved this program, please drop us a message now or drop us an email. I'm sure the email will be flashing up right on the screen. Drop us an email or give Noble TV a call, and why not appear as a guest, and let's try and fight this community like we fought colonization from the West and we became independent. But then I'd like to see the African community do better than we're doing. I'll remain positive that yes, we are doing a lot of positive things within the diaspora community, but then I think there's a lot more we need to do, especially for our lovely youths. Talking of being lovely, you have a lovely weekend. I am John Chinode on Community Affairs on Noble People TV and radio. For now, it's a lovely weather outside. Keep cool and see you back next